Hello, all you unsung athletes. Welcome to the Unsung Athlete podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete, training every day, grinding without excuse, reward or not. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to the Unsung Athlete podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose, and I'm here with Coach Khalil Shakeel, an Army veteran dedicated to over 20 years of empowering young men to be great in this world. You even published a book about it, A Better M.A.L.E, which you have featured behind you. You were inducted into the Fort Bragg Boxing Hall of Fame and fought the main event on Friday Night Fights. Now fondly known as Coach Khalil, owner of Ambition Boxing Academy in Fayetteville, North Carolina, you continue your training even before the sun rises. And you wear pink every day in remembrance of your wife and her fight against breast cancer. And I am so excited to hear more about your story, and it is an honor to have you here.
Thank you, Shannon, for having me. It's an honor to be here, honestly. I'm really looking forward to this. I think we should have a great time.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. So
Yeah.
let's get started. All right, my first question to you is always a little bit more heart-centered. If you don't know me already, I always love to start with love. And so I want to know what excites your heart these days?
What excites my heart is, first of all, being a father is the most dearest thing to me. I'm currently remarried. Being a husband is very dear to me. And having great physical health.
I know you've been a professional boxer and an athlete throughout your life, yet today, in this moment, do you consider yourself an athlete and why?
Well, I consider myself an athlete. I tell people I'm like a lifelong athlete. It's almost like being a life learner. So although no longer compete, say competitively against other individuals, the competition now is within myself to continue to try to stay strong, stay healthy, getting up, participating in the movement, and as well, me training so many young people, I feel I have obligation to keep myself healthy as well. Something I tell everyone who, those I train, those who I've actually mentored in training, I can't give a prescription to someone if I'm not doing it myself. And I really live by that. So I'm not going to tell a young man to do, let's just say, for example, run 4 miles around the track. If I can't run 4 miles around the track myself, I don't think that sets a great example. So I consider myself a lifelong athlete. It's something I enjoy training, working out. I just love it so much.
Yeah, you continue to embody really that true heart of an unsung athlete, which is someone who keeps showing up to their life and to their craft. You just keep perfecting it every day. And I love what you said about you don't hold expectations for others that you wouldn't fulfill yourself. I think
Correct.
that's so critical. So I
Yes.
love it. So we all started somewhere, back before we even knew we were athletes or what we were capable of. I'd love to know your origin story. When did you first see yourself as an athlete, and what were some of those early sports like for you?
Okay. Way back, originally from North Philadelphia. I always tell people North Philly because when you talk about Philly, people think of different places. That's I'm from North Philly. It started way back as a child, just playing sports in our neighborhood. I was always the small guy. So I think somewhere along the line, I always felt like I had to be better than everyone else. Although I didn't know, I wasn't conscious of the thought then. I was very competitive. So I played basketball, I played football. My dream actually is to go into the NBA, of course. And I was very good in basketball. I was very good in basketball. My mother was the first one to start getting me into, different sports. So every Christmas she would buy me a basketball, a football. She bought me my first pair of boxing gloves when I was 7 years old. So it just started at a very young age of just playing sports. And I continued the more I played, the more I loved it. And I was fortunate to be good and everything. So, just saying the neighborhood, when we were playing neighborhood basketball, I was the first one to be picked on the team, although I was probably the smallest out there. Football, same thing. Hey, let me get him. So with that, it just, I guess, as I continue to play and I continue to do well, I continue to want to play, more and more. It's just something I've been doing since a very early age. So,
So I think that's really so critical us as parents. We don't need to push our kids into things, but giving them just an opportunity or that door to walk through. Like you
right.
say, it was as simple as here's a football, like go try it out. See if you
Right,
like it. Here's a
right.
basketball. Go try it out. No?
So
And would you say that as a young athlete, you developed a love for sport in general and for being an athlete?
oh yeah, I loved it. It was playing sports was everything. Like I loved playing sports. That was just it for me. Like, oh man, I gotta go. Like it'd be all day in the summer, all day
Yeah.
long, playing, hanging out with friends, playing basketball, playing football. It was awesome. And I started, of course, I was playing the organized sports, and I played in like some of the more popular leagues in Philadelphia. Like one was just because it was John Chaney, Sunny Hill, where a lot of your top athletes across the city played in. And me having an opportunity to play in that league, and I'm sitting there with some of the guys whose names you're always hearing or reading in the papers was awesome because I'm like, oh man, I'm this guy's teammate, So it was
Right.
just, I love playing. And I think, sometimes say it keeps you out of trouble. I'm pretty sure it contributed to keeping me out of trouble some because where I'm from, you can get into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
I always enjoyed it. It was just something that, like, I can't explain the passion I had for playing sports.
And I think that's really cool because you said you were always had this natural talent. You
Mhm.
weren't always the biggest or most powerful, but there must have been something about you who had that heart. And
Right.
you also said something I thought was so great was you were proud to be the teammate of the people being featured. So you were
Right.
okay playing a supporting role to some of those stars and understanding you were part of the team and taking
Mhm.
pride in being part of the team, even if you weren't the one featured. That was
Right.
pretty special.
You're not taught that way. It just came along. So we had, for example, had a gentleman named Doug Overton. He ended up going to the NBA. Ended up getting a chance to play for the Philadelphia 76ers. When we were probably, I think, 13 years old, we were teammates. And they were always talking about him already around the city. He can be a future star. So in my neighborhood, I was able to go back and say, yeah, me and Doug Overton teammates. Bragging rights. I had to be better than he was. I'm on his team. We're,
Yes.
we're a team. So that was, things like that were awesome.
So you helped some really, you were a critical part, being a part of that team in others achieving their athletic goals
Right.
too. Yeah.
Right.
So, fast forward a little bit. Here you are, a published author focusing on building better young men in this world. When did you decide, and connect the dots from what you were doing as an athlete to who you became to then writing this book, A Better Male? How did that
Okay.
idea come about?
I've been coaching youth sports for a very long time. Played the role of the mentor to so many young people for a very long time. So it was something they just mentoring and coaching has been part of my life a very long time, about 20 years of
Yeah.
coaching and mentoring. Let me tell you, I tell you, I spell mentor, mentor. Reason being, when you think about a tour, you're taking someone somewhere. So when I say mentoring, I'm taking these young people somewhere. So I've been coaching for such a long time, and I always just somehow it just fell into trying to teach them the correct lessons. Some of the young men I was involved with, and I would definitely say a lot of it probably had to do with where I was raised. So I was raised in North Philly, very rough area, and I came up during the time where the crack stuff, drugs were really bad. So I guess as I got older, and went to the military, I just always felt the need to just teach other young people some of the better ways of living, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, it was something I always coach. Speaking to young people, I would see young people out in the store and they would do something, and I'd be like, "Hey, why you doing that?" It just naturally, they would respond, how they respond. But be careful doing things like that. So it's something that became natural to me. Going to my book, I was working at a high school back in 2007. And I just had a group of young men who always would come speak with me. And again, I'm working as a school social worker. They would come talk to me. They knew I was coaching. They knew I had a little boxing program, and that gets a lot of attention anyway. So when they was after a while, when they would get in trouble, they would get sent to me before they get sent to an administrator. Where they might suffer some type of suspension, disciplinary action. So from there, I just would, sit in my office with them. We would have conversations, and one day. I can't remember the exact day. I came up with the idea of a better mill. Men are learned early. So I'm creating my own books. So I got them all printed up and we started using them. So a couple of days a week, I would bring the young men down. We were talking in the library and it just grew. And after a while, a few years go by, I would see them out in the community and they would talk to me about, hey man, you really helped me so much, Mr. Shakeel, or they call me coach. And so it just continued to grow, me mentoring. Then I got involved in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. And it's almost like it was a path that was written for me that I didn't do on purpose. Why I said I didn't do on purpose? I didn't sit down with it and say, hey, I want to be a mentor. It's just something that became natural. So I had the book for the longest period of time, again, 2007. And after a while, after my sons, one son was born in 2004, the other son was born in 2007. After a while, what I would do during the summer when they were able to read these books I would have them read like a little, and the books are real small. I would have them read, say, one of the chapters. And I was saying, now let's talk about it. So then after, they would do it. Oh, Dad, not this again. We read them every summer. I said, right, because there are messages and I want you to remember. So, I just had it for a while. And in 1 year, which was actually last year, I said, I'm going to turn this mentor book I had with the kids I used in school in 2007 into a book to read. So I sat down in June of last year and what I had, I took it, changed it up a little bit, made it into a small book, and I wanted it printed by um August. Now, the reason let me share why I wanted it printed by August. I'll share why. So I wanted it printed. My birthday is in July. My late wife, who passed away from breast cancer, her birthday was August. So what I said, I was like, wow, it'd be amazing if I can get this book going into print. So
Yeah.
I decided in June to put the book together as a regular book. I made some changes to it, and I wanted it printed in August um, of last year. That's how it came about.
For her birthday.
Yeah. I said, it's just something I just wanted to do. And she passed away in 2012, but I still, so I was like, yo, this would be awesome if I did it and release it in August, and I was able to do it. But it came about because I was mentoring young men, and I said, I want to do a little bit more with it. I see the changes that often, a lot of changes with the young men now that need to be made. The message, they get a lot of wrong messages, for lack of a better term.
Yeah. So it started off as a tool that you
Yes.
would use to help communicate and reinforce this great, like this ad hoc work you were doing in the
Hmm.
community. And then, like you say, with your sons coming into the world, you saw it as an opportunity, as a tool to raise them. And
Right.
then it just grew from there, the need to make it more of a formal book.
Yes.
It's just
Yeah.
wonderful. I think
Yeah.
it's so great.
Yeah.
So, piggybacking off of that, you are the owner of Ambition Boxing Academy, and you mentioned it,
Hmm.
but tell me a little bit about how that came to be.
This is another great story. Okay, gentlemen, I was finished with boxing myself. A little upset. I was flying high, predictions of being, doing great things. I still had a decent career overall.
Your boxing career.
Yes, and once I turned professional, yes, because I boxed for the Army, boxed civilian. So a gentleman had started a program where I'm located at, and one day he approached me, saying, "Hey man, I'd like for you to come in and help my trainers learn how to train guys." So I said, "I don't mess with boxing right now. I'm kind of, fed up with boxing. I just stay away from the game overall." So he approached me again. I can't remember how much later. He said, nah, I really need your help because I have guys up there. I'm starting a program. They don't know how to train people, So we sat down. So okay, well we can sit down, have a business talk. So we met, came to an agreement about how it will work with the business side of things. And so I'm teaching these guys how to train people, and there's a lot of young kids in there. So what I started, I'm saying, I'm like, what else needs to be done other than teaching them boxing? Like I've never seeked to try to make someone a world champion. Like, I never had the dreams of someone being a world champion through me. If they boxing, we're trying to do the best we can. But I never go get kids, hey, you could be a world champion. That's just not I'm not trying to live through them. So I'm helping with this program there, teaching the guys, teaching these men how to train kids. So train boxers overall, but a lot of kids in the program. So one day I came up with an idea. I said, I'm gonna start teaching life skill classes on Saturdays. So what I did then, on Saturdays, I would schedule a life skill class, say from 10 to 11. And I would speak with the parents. I said, okay, now, I'm here helping them. I'm like an assistant training the guys. But on Saturday, I'm gonna start offering a life skill class, say from 10 to 11, and it will be different things. Like one will be anger management, for example, impulse control. So I started doing that on Saturdays, and we made it where I came with this idea: if they didn't attend the class on Saturday, they couldn't train during the week. Now, here it is. This is right here, as I was saying, Shane. I got that idea from when I used to play for John Chaney and Sunny Hill Basketball League. We had to go to Saturday events. John Chaney and Sunny Hill, they were very famous. John Chaney was a coach at Temple University. They had something on Saturdays you had to attend the guest speaker series, whoever they bring. They knew real pros. We're kids. We're seeing people like Dr. J come in. But if you didn't attend the Saturday sessions, you couldn't play that week. So I got that idea from there. Here it is, I don't know what, 40 years ago, I went through this and it popped back in my head. So the parents are all for it. Okay. I said, yeah, so they don't attend Saturdays life skill class, they can't train during the week. So I would teach, teaching these classes on Saturdays, small classes, anger management, self-respect, proper communication, small things for them because they were like ages like 8 to 10. So there used to be a gentleman cleaning up the other side of the building. So one side you have the boxing area, the other side it was like a big room with stuff in it, just stuff. And the gentleman used to be up there working on the lights, just doing different little, I guess, things of fixing the room up. Fast forward, the gentleman who had his boxing academy, him and the owner, they can no longer agree on contract ideas. He told me, "Hey, Khalil, yeah, I'm closing down." So I said, "Okay, okay, man." He told me, "All right." So I'm in there one morning, I'm taking my bags down. And the gentleman who's always across in the other room, he come and say, "What are you doing?" So I'm taking my bags down. I said, Joe said he's shutting down his business because of something about he couldn't agree with the owner. He says to me, the gentleman, he said, "How about you think about doing your own business?" I said, "No, I have no interest in doing it." He said, I'm here on a lot of the Saturdays over here working, and I hear what you're doing with the kids. He said, that's really needed in the community. I said, I appreciate it. As I'm asking, no disrespect, but who are you? He said, I own this building, and I own the land behind McDonald's where he said, that parking lot just built the McDonald's, I own that. He said, the parking lot over there where the cleaners is at, I own that. The cleaners, she was able to put her cleaners there because I sold them the land. I said, oh, I said, no, I said, man, I did not know, no disrespect. He said, I know because the way I'm dressed. He had on the boots, with the paint on them, the jeans, the ripped shirt. He said, yeah, I own all this land right here. He said, and what you're doing with the kids is great. It's needed in our community. So how about you think about opening your own here since the other gentleman will no longer be doing it. He said, and what we could do, we'll sit down and meet and we'll come up with something that works for both of us. So we sat down, I don't know how long, a week or so later, came with business idea that worked for both of us. And that's how Ambition Boxing Academy started. But initially it was ABC Boxing Academy, and ABC stood for Attitudes, Behaviors, Consequences Boxing Academy. So that was on the shirts, Attitudes, Behaviors, and Consequences. So now as I'm training young people and more people coming in, that will be part of our conversation in training. You got to understand, when you come here for training, you have a certain attitude and you can behave a certain way. And when you go perform, for those of you who are boxing, there are going to be consequences to your behaviors. And it all can start with your attitude. So I was teaching the lessons through the name of my facility, which was Attitudes, Behaviors, and Consequences Boxing Academy. But that's how it started. The gentleman was working in the building. I didn't know he was the owner. And when he found out, well, he heard what I was doing Saturdays because we'd be there working. And he said he wanted me to keep doing it. So that's how we started.
Oh, what a cool story.
I know, crazy. It's like, wow. Like when I tell people, they, what? I'm like, yes, that's how it started. That is how it
Yeah,
started.
but when you listen and you say yes,
Hmm.
those things happen.
Right.
Those things come to you when you keep listening and taking steps forward, even though you're
Mhm.
not sure how it's gonna go or where it's gonna end up. You just keep
Right.
showing up to the calling. Those things will happen for you.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Yes.
Also, with boxing, I know it's a small part, but you do incorporate this martial arts mentality to your gym.
Hmm.
It's very clear,
Right.
and as you know, martial arts instills a lot of those same behaviors and
Principles.
morals
Hmm.
and guiding lights. Honestly, I mean, the best thing I did was get my girls into mixed martial arts since they've been 3 and 5, you know?
Right.
Because
Right.
that's what I wanted them to have is just a core competency and just something that was just a part of them, not something they had to unlearn and figure out later. I
Right.
wanted it to always be a part. And you're doing that same thing through boxing. And I absolutely love it. So I'm putting that away as a tool for the future, your Saturday mentality. You don't
Hmm.
come to life skills class, you don't get to participate. I mean, every single coach of a youth should have something like that in their program right now,
Right.
because that is absolutely what's missing.
Right.
Youth athletics has become such a business that
Hmm.
they
It is.
forgot why youth athletics even was formed in the first place to build
Right.
skills and all those things, those ABCs you talked about. So that's such a great tool to any coaches listening of any programs out there that having some sort of emotional intelligence or life skills class as a mandatory part in order to compete and participate. I think that's awesome.
So yes, I think it's very important to have the principles. I share this. Okay, both my sons play sports. They were top track stars here running for the like junior Olympics. My youngest son, who's 18 now, when he was 11, he was ranked number 4 in the nation in running the 1500 meters. He was number one in North Carolina for 3 years. My other son, he was number three in North Carolina for a few years. We playing basketball, okay, and they're very good basketball players. And back then, you rotate when regularly you rotate your fives. So we're playing a playoff game, and one of the kid who's in my front, now I try to set it up strategically where we can win, But if it's your child turn to go in the game, he's going in the game. So we have a game. The game is close, and the parent says to me, she's sitting behind the bench. It was time for her the rotation going to the last quarter, and she says, Coach, don't put my son in. Put Najee in. That's my son. Najee wasn't in the last rotation. I had Najee in the first rotation, so he had an impact when he out there the first quarter. So she says it to me because he could not play. He was a nice little kid. He loved being out there, but he couldn't play. She says, "Don't put my son in. Put Najee in." I look at her. I said, "Nope." I said, "Your son is going in the game. Najee's not." She said, "Coach, but what if we don't win?" I said, "We still go get pizza and enjoy our Saturday." I said, "No, your son is going in the game." I said, and I said this to her after the game, and we lost. We lost. I told her after the game, I said, if I would not put your son in because he's not that good, I said, do you understand the impact that would have on him? He knows, like, I'm not that good. Coach didn't put me in. Why am I really bad? I said, no. I said, I never do that. Because then he's going in the game. And he did not do well. So I think, yes, like you said, it's very important that we try to teach, or continue to teach the right principles as kids come along, playing these sports. They really enjoy playing because sports really a small part of their life as far as how far they're gonna go in it, but the lessons that could be learned are everlasting. And I think that's very important. We just came back from a tournament yesterday. I had two guys competing. One guy won the belt. It's an amateur show. It's called Battle of the States. So everybody from different states come around. One of my guys, 15-year-old, he won his bracket. So he won, he got a big belt. And after he won, he ended up stopping. It got TKO basically. He came over. We was taking the stuff off. I said, "Now you know what to do, right?" He like, "Yes, sir." So I go over there, shake my opponent hand, shake his coach hand. I said, "Correct." So he did what he was supposed to do. My guy who lost, he's a soldier. He's 32 years old. So after he came over, they stopped the fight. He came over to me. I was taking the gloves off. I said, "You know what you need to do, right?" He like, "Yes, sir. I need to go over there, shake my opponent's hand, and shake his coach hand." I said, "Exactly." So no matter what, winning or losing, you have to have certain respect for yourself and respect for your opponents. And that's how we take that. To me, we transfer that into life. Winning or losing, you have to have respect for yourself and respect for others. And we live better that way, in my opinion. If I have respect for myself first, respect for others, we can live a better life. So
Yes. Well, and we all have to remind ourselves there are no youth elite athletes. It's just not
right,
a thing. I love hearing about, these professional athletes, and I've interviewed some professional athletes like yourself, but as young kids, a lot of them were not good. A
mhm,
lot of them lost more than they won. A lot of them were on no-name teams.
right,
But what they did is they just kept showing up to their craft and not stopping.
right,
Win or lose, they showed up.
mhm,
Win or lose, they brought their character. Win or
right,
lose, they worked just as hard,
right.
And yes, they were bummed, but they were learned to regulate their emotions like you talked about and all of that. So absolutely incredible. I think your teaching skills, like you say, that transcend the ring.
I tried
So I have a question for you.
boxing.
You do a lot. You,
Yes.
you do a lot, You've got your day-to-day job. You also are, an author and you're out in your community. You're obviously very active. You run this gym. You're a father. And no matter how old your kids are, you're involved and present. So how do you keep yourself going each and every day? What are some of the tactics and things you do to just keep yourself going, knowing that you're not in a competitive environment anymore? You're not coming back with that belt or that medal
Right.
anymore. How do you keep yourself going as an athlete?
Well, one is passion, not the cliche passion, but passion. As an athlete, for one, like I said, I love working out, I love training. I work in the school system. I'm off during the summer. I still wake up 4:45 and go train, because I love it that much. I think there are some great outcomes as far as, for one, staying strong, trying to stay healthy. What it does for me mentally, relaxing me, the endorphins release in your body, and you just feel good all day. So the way I keep myself going is because it's the passion I have for it. Like, I really love this. Being able to go train the young people in the evening time, I have passion for it. Now, with that, I make sure I schedule it where it works for me, it works for my family, and, meaning, so I'm still not losing a lot of time, with my family. We still spend a lot of time together. They support me in doing it. Both of my sons, they'll come in sometimes to train with us, sometimes they won't. So, but I'm able to keep myself going because I really enjoy what I'm doing. I try to stay healthy as far as eating, but I'll rip some Doritos up and chocolate. Put those in front of me, they're done. But I try to eat well. I try to get decent sleep. I just think that most of it's just the passion I have for it. Sitting around doing nothing doesn't work for me. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm bored sitting around doing nothing. So
Yeah.
I try to do something. I try to stay productive in some way, and part of it is through my training others, doing work like that. So I guess a lot of it would be passion. I just had a passion for it, and with that, when you have passion for whatever your passion is, it kind of comes a little easier.
Well, along those lines, I mean, when you're feeling good about what you do and you have a passion for what you do and you have this fire in you, like you say, it's not work. You keep showing up.
Right.
Sometimes we all have setbacks
Hmm.
and we have situations that more than set us back. They
Right.
take us out of our craft, they take us out of our athletics and our focus and our life. Tell me about a time when you were taken out of this passion that you had for
Mhm.
athletics and for training and bettering your community. Tell me a time that set you back. Tell me your comeback story.
So I have two. Is when I fought when I saw the main event at on Fox. I was what they call the B side though. I was fighting a former world champion. I lost. I was stopped in the ninth round. So leading up to that, there's all kinds of write-ups in the paper about me. I used to get a lot of what we call ink anyway. But it's a big article on me like Khalil be fighting on Fox, main event, against former world champion. Da, da, da. So me being so excited about the opportunity, I think some of it we didn't prepare right. Me and my trainer at that time had a falling out about it. One, I had a hairline fracture in my hand. We probably should have pulled out the match, so I couldn't spar. But on my side, I still was hanging out. So I was going out a couple of days, nights a week. 6 weeks out from the boxing match. This is gonna be big, the main event of Fox Friday Night Fights. I'm in the club on Saturday. I'm on the club on Sunday. I remember a gentleman came to me who was in the military with me one time, and he came up to me. He says to me, he said, man, what you doing in the club? I said, man, mine just hanging a little bit. He said, you got a big fight coming up. Why are you in the club? Man, go ahead. Man, I didn't want to hear what he had to say, but he was telling me what I needed to hear. So lo and behold, I go fight. I lose. Get stopped in the ninth round. I still say to the day, they didn't have to stop it, but the referee said, hey, you were starting to take punishment. So we stopped it. That was a little hard because now I had to come back to the community where everybody knew me and make a decision. Do you hide or do you continue to go out like you're using? I had a swollen eye. So when I, come back after a couple of days, I said, I can't stay in hiding. I got to go out. I got to be who I was beforehand and who I would have been if I would have won. Now, if I would have won, I'd have been I'd have been everywhere.
Ah,
So that was hard that making that decision. And I ended up, just going back out to the regular flow, just with a swollen eye, and a couple of people like, oh man, I thought you had him. So in the final, there was a lot of support. Like, oh, what you did was big. Oh man, you were on Fox Friday Night Fights, and that's when Friday Night Fights was, that was the thing. So I still received a lot of support, but it was hard initially because I didn't know how to handle that type of loss. Like, oh man, now I got to go back and see a lot of people that I know. So that was a little difficult, but I got past it fast. The toughest challenge would be, and sometimes I get emotional, is when my late wife had breast cancer. That was the toughest. It was past tough. That was hard because when we used to working out, she was used to working out, of course. And then once she got sick, I stopped training, working. I got to take care of her. Initially, we were on a good schedule because we like, okay, it's no real major progression, but it progressed very fast. So then my whole life was changing. I had, I'm taking care of my wife to the utmost. My son, who's 18, he was 4. She had it for 22 months. So when she passed away, he was 4. She passed away a month before his 5th birthday. So when she started going through it, I'm taking care of her. I'm taking care of my 2 sons. I have a daughter as well. She was 10 when my late wife was diagnosed. My late wife had been around my daughter since my daughter was 2 years old. So that's who she knew was her stepmom for 8 years. So that was really tough. I'm taking care of them, taking care of the kids. I'm taking care of my wife. I'm still going to work, so that during the time that my late wife was diagnosed, my mother was diagnosed with lung cancer. So every now and then I'm trying to run up to Philly to see my mom, but I'm also taking care of my wife. And so then when I would go see my mom, she was like, hey, I'm gonna be okay. I'm old now. You make sure you stay down there and take care of Lynette. That was her name. So that battle right there, it was the toughest thing I've been through in my life, and I've been through some things. Um, that was hard. That was very hard. And then when we knew she wasn't going to survive, she looked at me and she said, "We're up at Duke Hospital." And the gentleman, Dr. Malcolm, he says to me, he comes in the room, he tells us, he said, "Hey, the chemo's not working. Only thing we can do now is recommend that she just try to be comfortable." He said, "You can continue to take the chemo. You can have all the side effects, but it won't help the breast cancer." I mean, he didn't say it like he said it like with a little empathy. So my wife, she says, "Okay, let us talk about it." So he leaves out, and she tells me, she said, "I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm okay." She says, "I can't do it anymore." I said, "Do you know what you're saying?" She said, "Yep." She said, "I'm tired." She said, "I've been doing this now for 22 months." She said, "I'm tired." She said, "So the chemo, I stay sick. I'm only weighing 110 pounds." And she's probably around 155, 160 initially. She said, "I just can't do this anymore." She said, "Make me a promise. Promise me that you will find someone that loves you and the boys as much as I do." Oh man, Shane, I was through. I was through. I was,
How do you take that in?
oh,
How do you take that order?
right. For her to be so strong about it, like
Mm.
this is my outcome and I'm okay. I'm at peace with myself. So, after we went through everything we went through and she passed away, it was hard for me to come back because my life had been shattered, but I still had to raise my children. I still had to function at work. So my life was shattered, but I started putting it in different rooms in my head. So when I close that door, I'm not dealing with it, during that time. So I was compartmentalizing everything. I got to get the boys up for school. That's what I'm doing. I'm not worrying about anything else. Up after that, now got them sons up, take them to school, come home. I took off from work probably just a week. I went back to work after a week. Then after I come back home, okay, now I got to handle paperwork. Let me open that room door up, handle paperwork. So I had to compartmentalize everything, and that way it allowed me to continue to function. So I guess we said I did it in chunks. I said, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. And eventually I just started coming back. I said, okay, I got to start getting back to the gym now. I got to start doing things that's gonna help me mentally, make it through. I said, I'm gonna try to find a support group. So I went to a little support group to support families. We had some good conversations, and I mean, it's not funny, but it is. Before you know it, I'm teaching the support group
Yes, you are.
because the instructor's like, "Hey, so how did y'all make it through?" So I'm telling them like, certain language we didn't use while my wife was going through it. So we didn't use terms like sick because sick is too common for kids. And they say, "Oh, I'm feeling sick." They might start thinking like, "Oh boy." So certain words we didn't use. Certain language we like, nah, that's not a word we're gonna use. We talked about it. So we use like ill, can't sleep. But we might have changed that to something. So as I'm talking about these things during these I guess therapy sessions, before you know it, the professor, "Hey, I will come in. Khalil, run us through some things today." I'm like, and one day I said to him after, I said, "Man, I don't supposed to be teaching this class." "No, I know, but you got a lot of information you can share with people." And I think in the long run, eventually, I realized me doing it that way actually helped me. It was another way to share my story as well as share insight with for other people. Like, hey, well, this might help you as well. Then initially, I wasn't thinking that, but later on, as I got through everything, I think, man, that probably helped me and it helped others. So after that, I started speaking about breast cancer and family, what it was going through, and the more I spoke about it, the I guess the better I was able to eat flowing and get back in my routines, going to where I would go work out early in the morning before my sons wake up. And then I would
Yeah.
come home, get them ready. And then eventually my wife now, eventually I met her. Okay, I'm gonna let her meet my son. And then they met and it bloop and they hit it right off. So then we slowly
Oh,
started decreasing. So then it started becoming, okay, I'm going to work out. She's like, "Okay, well, you're going to work out tomorrow. I'm gonna come over there and stay with the boys." I'm like, "They're fine." Then no, just in case. So it took me a while to get back on the horse, but there was certain things that helped me get back on the horse. But the toughest time of doing anything would be going through those 22 months with my wife dealing with breast cancer. And that was tough. And I think I told you, I wrote a book on it. It's called She Did All She Could. Now What Am I to Do? I wrote the book, but it was never meant to be a book. I just had a bunch of notes I used to take. And I took the notes and turned it into a book along with other stuff like how we first met, we were friends and funny things. But yeah, initially it wasn't meant to be a book. It was just like, hey, I got a bunch of notes. And someone came to me, a friend said, "Hey, you got a book?" I'm like, "No, I don't." And I ended up writing a book off of it. Crazy how things happen.
I mean, there is so many amazing, beautiful things in that
Mhm.
story. I
Thank
mean,
you.
yes, from the time you said shattered
Hmm.
to the time you figured out how to use compartmentalizing. People think compartmentalizing is bad.
Right.
It isn't. It is a wonderful survival technique if you can move through it, if you can
Yes.
use it as a temporary tool. And then you put everything in these boxes or these rooms, but then you started one by one opening those doors again,
Right,
unpacking those boxes again,
right.
and uncompartmentalizing as you felt ready. But you also, I hear these callbacks to when you were younger,
Hmm.
to those things that you were taught about emotional intelligence and showing up for yourself and showing up for others. It seems like you always just have this, others centered view on life. And through that, not only are you able to influence your community and do all these wonderful things, in that you were able to give to get, you healed by
Right.
giving and mentoring, by showing others how to do that. And what an incredible cycle of love and opportunity for you to love the world and for love to come back to you. Just beautiful all the way around. And I can't wait to read both of your books. There is a lot to be said about what you have done in this incredible life
Mhm.
that you've been given. I want to know, when people think of Coach Khalil, what do you want them to think, say, and feel? What do you want your legacy story to be?
What I would think that Coach Khalil is passionate, he's caring, um, he's empathetic for people, he's straightforward, he's trustworthy. If he gives you his word, he's gonna do his best to stick to it. He really has a set of values that he tried to instill in others. He care about people, but at the same time, if he get to a point where he's like, I'm through with you, he's also through with you. So I'm sincere with, say, my friendships and relationships. And my first name means close, sincere friend. But once I feel that we're no longer there, I can't be there with you anymore. Once you break my trust, and that's probably some childhood stuff I went through. Once you break my trust, it's very hard to get it back. So I would say, I know I've said a lot. He's an empathetic person. He cares for people. He's sincere. He's trustworthy. He's serious and silly. People who don't know me think I'm really serious. People who know me be like, "Yo, you are a silly guy." And I think overall, I'm a fun, loving person.
I
You don't
love
do
it.
too much.
Based off of what I know about you so far, you are all those things. You've checked all the boxes. All right, now for our final question. What is one thing you would say to inspire young athletes in today's world?
Can I say two words? Dedication and ambition.
What does that mean for you?
Dedicated means you have to be willing to do the right thing to get whatever you're trying to be successful at in that particular sport. You have to be dedicated towards it. I have a saying, make preparation a priority. And ambition, you have to have some ambition behind it. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to a young man in my gym, and he said, I don't run enough. And I asked him, I said, what's the difference between someone who doesn't run enough and someone who does not run? He said, I don't know, coach, what? I said, there's no difference. If you know you need to run, and you're not running enough, you're no different than the guy who's not running at all. So you have to have the ambition. I should not have to, and I'm saying to some, I shouldn't have to remind you to run. That's something you need to do. You have to be dedicated to it because you state that he's just turned 17. I said, you stated that you wanted to be a boxer for a little while in the amateurs. If you're not dedicated to it, you can't do it. You have to have ambition when you're doing something like this. So I think dedication, we know what dedication, I'm dedicated to what it is I'm trying to accomplish, and I have to have a little bit of ambition behind it because without ambition, sometimes it's hard to get the wheels going. Like I don't really want to do this. There's no ambition. You have the
Yeah.
ambition. Like, it's something I want to do. So dedication and ambition is very important to me.
And what would you say to, youth athletes that feel like maybe they're falling short on dedication or ambition? What would you say to them to help them get over that?
Okay, but the youth, depending on the age range, if they're the younger youth, say the 10 to 12 year olds, I probably ask them, maybe say they think they're falling short. I would tell them something simple like, each day you go out, just try to give the best that you have.
Mm.
Keep working on your craft when no one's around, because kids can get discouraged. You got the 11-year-old who can't make a left hand layup versus a kid who can. Man, just work on your craft when no one's around. Have a contest with yourself. Go play yourself one on one. The older ones who have fallen short, probably tell them something similar. Keep working on it. Make sure it's something you really want to do. Be patient. Don't think that it's going to happen overnight. It takes time. And Shane, I have to share this with you. My gentleman who lost, my soldier who lost in the boxing match this weekend. He was upset afterwards. He like, yeah, coach, I lost. I let you down. I said, you let me down. I said, this is just a little competition you guys to participate. I said, let me down. And I'm gonna tell you the old man story. My very first amateur boxing match, I lost to I was in Germany. I said, I lost to a guy who was on the German national team. I didn't know what that meant. I said, so I lost my first match. I said, I kept that plaque. I said, after that first match, I had 110 more amateur bouts. I finished my amateur career 92 wins, 19 losses, and I went to the Olympic trials. So he looked at me. I said, so what I'm saying to you, do not allow this one hiccup affect your long-term goal. I said, you didn't win today? I said, so be it. When you get dressed, leave here, go enjoy your family who came up to see you from Florida. So I would tell the person, the older person, just keep moving forward. Keep trying. So that's what I have.
Keep showing up.
That's it. Keep
Keep
showing.
showing up to the work and have patience. The rest will come.
Right.
Beautiful. Well, Coach, thank you for being here and showing us all the true heart of an unsung athlete.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Thank you for joining us on the Unsung Athlete podcast, where we give a voice to you, the unsung athlete. I'm your host, Shannon Rose. Keep grinding without excuse.